wonderful statistics that you shared with us today, but when I look at you and see the military look at you and you look at the military, there is a mutual respect of, and sometimes it's hard to see who the heroes are, because I believe you all are, saving this country and saving your community. So I know that these panel of experts are going to have a lot of questions to ask because you covered a lot of ground. So who wants to start? You.
Hey guys.
Who is her?
Came through there one time. 24 hours.
Come back.
And I went someplace else. BRAC base realignment is causing problems, if I read the paper, all over the country in terms of realigning people in Virginia to Maryland and people that live in Maryland down to Virginia. They got a big office building down there about 20 stories high that a congressman has said you can't occupy until you build the roads up to it. Now, with the 82nd in Fayetteville, you all had to be aware of what was about to come your way. And so that in your planning process, how involved did you get in the planning of the highways and the homes and the schools and all those things to accommodate those new people that were coming into your community?
Yes, sir. In fact, well before the BRAC announcement was made about 5 years ago this month, actually, we were organized in North Carolina, and our community was heavily involved in that to prepare for BRAC. So we weren't really surprised in April. We might have been a little surprised, but we were very well organized. And during those 5 years in between, we have worked together actually with 11 counties surrounding Fort Bragg and something called the BRAC Regional Task Force. All 11 counties worked together to identify where highway needs were, where school needs were. Those are the big pressures, highways and schools. And literally, sir, the growth management plan that came from that, we knew in every county how many schools would be needed, where they needed to be located, where the highways needed to be, what we needed to do to prepare for this influx of the new commands that are coming to our community this summer and the associated $1 billion in economic impact.
And so did the federal government help you with that?
They do. Thankfully, when the federal government makes these changes as part of the BRAC process, if a community, for everyone who's gaining installation or growth, communities are losing it as well. So the federal government does invest in those communities to plan for whatever the future holds. In our case, they worked with us in a regional way to plan for significant growth.
Thank you. Lynn, I believe you have a question.
So it's said that we suffer in this country from sectoritis and siloitis, where people aren't able to get out of their narrow cylinders of activity. So how have you done this? It's pretty clear that you've learned to work cross-sector, cross-silo.
Yes, sir. It's been a community change effort, and Mr. Breeze probably can help us with that.
Well, Greater Fayetteville Futures, of course, was a process that was citizen-driven and community-driven. That was what made it work. We had meetings throughout our community dealing with areas of image and with economic development. And so Greater Fayetteville Futures really brought the community together. We had a vote of the citizens with Greater Fayetteville Futures to name us history heroes in a hometown feeling. Thousands of people voted. Ballots were put in all the public libraries and online. So Greater Fayetteville Futures has really changed our community in a way that few things have.
I just like to add, my name is Dale, I'm the city manager, and about a month after I became city manager in Fayetteville in December 2006, General John Vines at that time, who was the commander of the 82nd and Fort Bragg, spoke to our city council on his departure, and he prepared us. He said, success happens when preparation meets opportunity, and we took him to heart. We heard him loud and clear, and the community came together. The mayor led the effort, and we've gotten ready for this change.
And we all know it's about people, so our community took that to heart. During this whole process, and this also answers Hugh's question, we launched a website called FayettevilleWantsYou.com, and this reached out to those people that were relocating, had PDF files for all of their needs to relocate to Fayetteville. We even did community orientations. during this whole process, which was not an overnight thing, it's been 7 to 10 years to get through those silos, to help us to really speak horizontally to all the groups in our community. And we went to each of the municipalities, spoke to them about a common brand, and then launched that common brand. And then we were able to form some splinter groups, such as Society of Patriots, the Army's Army, or Fayetteville Cares. Several groups that have worked and included our citizens countywide to help us solve these issues.
Okay, thank you. I believe, Kurt, you had a question?
Yes, I'm trying to imagine the governance model that must be in place, at least informally, between the city, the counties, the feds, the Army, and whoever's in charge of that has a hats off from me. I'm wondering, though, what the school districts in the area are doing to help the families, the military families and their children, especially during deployments and things like that.
We have 87 schools in our district with 52,000 children. I'm Director of Media Services and also Chairman of the Reading Rocks Walkathon. We have many pieces in place. We have 160 school guidance counselors. We have 115 media coordinators. We have one of the largest autistic populations in the United States because of Duke and Chapel Hill, and our military families come there intentionally to get care with special needs children. So we have many pieces in place. We also do many things to make sure that we have 675 homeless children in our county, and we do everything possible to put all support pieces. I've also been a principal, and all those children automatically get free and reduced breakfast, lunch. We work together with Fort Bragg to make sure they're getting all the pieces in place. We do a lot of networking between the school system, Fayetteville City government, and also Fort Bragg City Schools. So we just work very hard to work together to move the mark for children, academically, emotionally, and socially.
And let me just say, my name is Doug Peters. I'm President and CEO of the Chamber of Commerce. We also have the responsibility for economic development. I chose to invest my family's future in the Fayetteville community 3 years ago. I came from cold Northwest Ohio and have no regrets. But the neat experience that I had, and what I think speaks to your question to some degree, is the fact that when my family was announced that we were relocating to Fayetteville, North Carolina, my children, all of whom were either in middle school or elementary school, began to get letters from other children in the community, welcoming them, telling them that they would in fact look forward to being a part of their daily life. And before the moving truck arrived at our home, there were 3 children who had written letters on our lawn looking to meet our children. So I think it's part of Fayetteville's culture that we take care of each other. And it's unique to any place I've ever been.
Thank you. Mary Lou, I believe you have a question.
Well, I know this. You have some mighty cute children. Thank you for bringing them to us today. And the question I'm going to ask is, I hope you don't feel insulted by it, but I really want to understand. A lot of times in a military community, certainly the chamber and EDC and city leaders express a great deal of affection for the military because it means jobs and, it's good for the community economically. But the general population doesn't always follow that. And I'm sensing what you're saying is that's not true in Fayetteville, but I would like to hear how it got from the chamber to the neighborhood.
Well, if I could speak to that, my name is Val Applewhite. I'm a United States Air Force retired Master Sergeant, and I'm also a member of the Fayetteville City Council. I retired at Pope Air Force Base in 1999, and I left, but I brought my family back to Fayetteville to raise my children. I have one of them here today. So what you find, actually, our City Council actually has 5 military members elected on a body of 10. So we understand, and we are able to bridge that gap. I often work with soldiers and airmen on base when they have concerns about the community or they don't know how to navigate the community. I remember being on active duty. You have the inside the gate mentality, but our community has worked hard to bring our military members into the community. We have a wonderful museum in downtown, the Airborne Special Operations Museum, which is a cornerstone. We have many events where military and civilians come together. So, the military and our community, it's very much blended, and we're very proud of that.
And Doug, real quick before you go, my name's Kirk DeVere. I'm a local business owner, and I'm one of the other co-founders of Fayetteville Cares that you heard about earlier today. And that was one of the organizations that helped us connect the military back to the community, to directly answer your question. It was a very collaborative effort. So we think of ourselves as a community readiness group. And that was contagious and spread through our community, tied with some of the things that John Morosky talked about earlier with the Army's Army and some of the image components. That was contagious and spread through our community and allowed us to be that readiness group for the military.
Ma'am, I interpreted your question a little bit differently. Are we doing anything for those companies who are already invested in our community? The answer is absolutely yes. We worked very closely from the grassroots to help the state of North Carolina pass what has become known as the Goodyear Bill. And I couldn't be more proud to share the stage with Billy Taylor. Billy is the general manager, plant manager for Goodyear, and I think probably has the better story than
I'm going to have to stop you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Billy. I owe you one. I understand this. But she's not only put it up, she's wiggling that stop sign now. And so I have to honor that.
I have a feeling there's many more stories.
I'm sure there are. And that's the wonderful thing about your community is you do have a lot of wonderful stories. And I want to tell you, this was an honor for me as a jurist, and I'm sure this panel, to sit in front of you and see what your community is doing and for sharing it to us. So I want you to know that. And what a great way to end an absolutely fabulous day in Kansas City. And there's still other good things going to happen tonight, so we haven't ended. But thank you for being the last community and bringing such a rich and wonderful story about an all-America city. Thank you, Fayetteville.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have just a couple of announcements.